What's up, everybody? Sparrow with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on the Space Engineer, or Space Reverse Engineer series. I gotta get that right. That's gonna take some time. Probably be episode like 100 before I get that right. So we're starting off with... here I am doing the Inspiration series intro. With the E-12 lander. This was the most popular pulled build from the Inspiration episode, with good reason, especially for reverse engineering. It's already a really cool ship, but when you think of kind of dissecting it a little bit, there's a lot to go over. So again, I can't stress this enough. When you're doing vanilla builds, there's not as many things of doing things like different techniques as much as they are applying them in different ways, which we see a lot of that in this build. Again, we've got a little bit of the greebly stuff going on with the incomplete type blocks to add a little bit more detail. But one of the parts that makes this ship a bit more detailed on its own is being a small grid. Small grids allow you to do a lot more finer, tinier details because the block size is smaller. It makes sense. So one of the things that drew me personally to this ship was this hatch that utilizes a merge block and a rotor setup. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time on that directly, I think, as well as some of the other things. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Alright, so like I said, a lot going on here. As you can see, this does appear to be functional. We've got the corner. If I can get I'm trying to get this to read what it is. It's not reading what it is. All right, get that out of the way. Looks like a cargo container. It is a cargo container. So we've got some cargo container type stuff over here that connects to the rest of the ship's conveyor systems and all that. We got some parachutes. A lot of this is cosmetic, but I will give the builder credit for combining aesthetic with, or aesthetic, I forget how you're supposed to actually say that, with functionality. For example, we've got these thrusters and stuff wedged underneath this, or in between these two plate frame type things. We've got the cargo containers that are in here but left exposed so you can see them. The thrusters of various different types are kind of in spots where you can identify them. So it was like, it's not like it's totally covered up, it's used to add more detail. For example, this is a good one. Instead of trying to cover up all of this, even though it looks like you could, because it's flush, they elected to leave part of the thrusters exposed so that you can kind of see them spinning and stuff like that, which is really cool. Also the batteries and stuff like that. Oh no, that's not the regular batteries, that's the beacons. That's the detachable beacons. So there's that. What does this say? Beacon 2, emergency detach, do not trigger. Interesting. Hatch detach. Oh, I didn't know there was a hatch detach button. So yeah, there's a lot of different little things in here. The use of blast door blocks to kind of, it seems, get around the collision box kind of situation, possibly, or just for decorative style. Might just be for decorative style. But yeah, we have the two beacons on the side that I totally forgot about. But you can see a lot of these little things using incomplete buttons, incomplete LCD, or text panels. I'm not sure which those are. Could be, yeah, text panels. And are these LCD panels? Okay. So using the incomplete ones for more like a frame, there's this stacked corner blast door block that I've seen used multiple times throughout the ship, which kind of gives it a ribbed texture kind of thing. It looks more like there's a lot of grooves kind of thing. It adds, here's another example of that. So it adds a little bit of a depth texture type of thing to it. It's not just all flat block. And again, kind of combining the functionality with the aesthetic of it to do, you know, you've got these thrusters doing kind of the same thing that are breaking up the different flowing lines of the hull and stuff so that it gives it a little bit more depth and substance. This is another similar thing, only instead of having them pointing up to where it's more drastic, it's a little bit more of a sloped, kind of a wave type pattern instead of the sticking up, spiky kind of shape, which is pretty cool. Now down on the bottom we do have the retractable landing gears, which I believe are just a... I think those are just a piston. Which I have to be honest, I did not know you could use pistons on a small grid without mods to add the smaller version block things. What are these, by the way? Now this is interesting. I cannot say I've ever seen this before, and it opens up a lot of ideas. So if you were to do... let me get a grinder here. If you were to do a slope, like so, I'll try and keep it kind of in a similar pattern as this, and then grind it down, you get this kind of shape, right? So you get this slope with a bar, a crossbar through it. Not very interesting. I did not know if you do heavy armor slopes, you get this cool grooved, almost vent-like look. So if you're trying to make a fake vent that doesn't actually function, but it looks like some kind of heat sink or something, that's actually a really cool way to do it that I did not even know was a thing. So that's really cool. And that's part of why I like doing this series, is to learn new things, even for myself. It's not even for you guys. I'm just happening to show you my findings. This is also really cool too. Again, I can't stress this enough. In this build, it's entirely vanilla. A lot of this stuff looks like it's modded. It really does. There's a lot of different elements that looks like you're using some kind of new block. But they're not, which is really cool. Especially this. So we have regular Gatling guns. Now they're painted differently, it looks like, to add a bit of a detailed touch to it. There's a sound block, but I'm trying to figure out what this... Oh, that is the Gatling block. Excuse me. Hold up. Yeah, okay. So it's not painted differently. That is just the Gatling gun. And then when they put a sound block... Oh, mirror mode's on. Right, so if you look at the totally not deleted sound block that is, oddly enough, a different color than it was a second ago, you will notice that it adds this interesting little look to this block, which I really like. And I believe cameras do the same thing, where they kind of inset into a block. They don't just place on top of them. Although this camera does not actually show a good example of what I was thinking of, so apparently sound blocks do better. But it makes it look like an entirely different block, or you've done some kind of weird combo glitch thing, something like that, but it's not. It's just they placed a sound block on a Gatling gun, covered up the conveyor port, and you're done, which is really interesting. And now I believe these LCD panels are using a specific texture to kind of point towards the conveyor port, and then we have the corner blocks with a reactor that then goes into, I'm assuming that conveyor connects to yet another conveyor. Can't really get in here to see. Let me go ahead and turn mirror mode off so that we can tamper with one side without messing with the other. Alright, so we have a corner block connected to a conveyor that then goes to the rest of the ship's conveyor systems. And we have a camera there for controlling it. Now, this is still like a fixed turret. If you wanted to do something a little bit more versatile that you could rotate or something, you'd have to do it with like a rotor. That the rotor then goes up to... you might even have to go up one block higher with your conveyors, possibly. But still, this is a really cool vanilla turret looking type thing, even though it's fixed, to do this rounded block around the conveyor ports and then connect the two Gatling guns up to a conveyor and cover it up with all these different blocks and things. Really, really cool. I like it. Now, like I said, there's a lot of these little things around the ship that are pretty cool. And one thing that I constantly forget is that even on a small grid, you can use half slopes and half blocks. which would come in very handy on a ship like this because you could even do even finer details using the half blocks, such as this. Okay, so this is a regular light block, but this down here is half slopes with the 2x1 corners. So yeah, that's another example. Now, let's get to the main event for me anyway. There's a lot of these little things that I could go on and on and on about. I really, really want to check out this hatch. Because I said it in the inspiration episode, I've never seen a hatch that utilizes a merge block. Most hatches are either on a hinge using a rotor, some kind of retractable piston using blast door blocks, things like that. I apparently got stuck on something. I don't know how that happened. The problem with those is I don't believe there's any way to seal them to where they're airtight. Now, I did get a comment that mentions this ship is not, in fact, airtight, which I did not know when I filmed the Inspiration series episode. However, I don't think it invalidates the point. It would require a little bit more experimentation, I suppose. Now, what I want to know... Let me actually double check this. Let me make sure I'm correct. Okay, so when this seals, I don't know if the blast door blocks would be a problem or not. Oh, no, they wouldn't, because there's an overlap. There's slope blocks on the edge for that very reason. Interesting. Okay. So, this is kind of curious. Again, we're going to do a little bit of dissecting here. We're going to remove that, I think. What is this? What block is that? Again, I have to remind myself this is vanilla, so... Gravity? Okay. Wait, how... Wait. There's some shenanigans going on here. You can't have a... Can you? You can't have a gravity generator on a small ship. No. You can't. How'd they do that? They had to do some MC editing, I think, to get this to work. Anyways, this is kind of a neither here nor there type of thing because it doesn't really matter. I don't believe. If we can find the piston, which is right there. I want to make sure that this is actually kosher. Okay. So it is. So while the gravity generator might be a little bit of a I forget what the space engineers community calls it, but essentially it's an MC edit thing where you can I don't know personally how to do it. I've been told before, I just forgot. But there's a way that you can essentially go in and edit the file and place or change a block from one thing to another, and so then the next time you load it, it's a large grid, but like in the game, you can't just place a gravity generator on a small ship. It even says it's not available. So this part is done through editing. That's not an actual vanilla thing. And let me know if you guys would be interested in learning how to do that, because if you are, and there isn't like some already amazing video on how to do it or something, let me know and I will research it further and maybe make a video on how to actually do that kind of stuff. I believe it's called... there was a name for it a while back when it first started. It was like hypergrids or something, or I forget. There was some kind of term for using this trick. Anyways, the real attraction here is this guy. So we have a piston, we have two rotors, we have a merge block, and then the rest of the hatch appears to be just regular standard blocks, except for this. These are ramps with the half block there, which basically is pretty simple. That's just the hatch, and then the rest of this is the lights and the buttons and all that kind of stuff, the bits and bobs. The real main attraction here is the rotors and the merge block and the pistons. As well as, nope, I don't even think you would need blast door blocks here because it's using a merge block. So, the thing that I want to know is what settings were used to allow this to function seamlessly. That's what I want to know. So, we're going to take a look at this guy. So we have a timer block called hatch. So, with that in mind, let's look up, maybe look up hatch. Whoa, that's going to give somebody a seizure. Now, is this a timer block? It is. Okay. Set up actions. Let's see what we have. So the first thing is to reverse the piston, toggle the merge block off, and toggle the other merge block off as well, and turn the hatch lights on. It's interesting that they don't turn the merge blocks off first and then reverse the piston. I wonder if there's some kind of reasoning behind that. Now, the other thing I want to look at is the rotor. Okay, there's no rotors here. Hatch detach. Okay, that's the detach button. I'm guessing this is going to be rotor detach. Okay. And the merge blocks are turned off. And then the piston extend and increase velocity. That's interesting. Oh, it must be to push it. That's gotta, if you detach it, it's gotta be so the piston head pushes it up in a way, possibly. Let's turn on this. I'm looking for those, there they are. Okay. So we have a safety detach of 5 meters. Torque is set to 448. I don't remember the name of that measurement, but kilo gnomes, I think, maybe? Please don't quote me on that, because I'm sure it's wrong. Now, let me look at this one. What I find interesting here is the rotor displacement is not set to anything. I really expected that to be low so that it would pull it down towards the hatch, but apparently not. And the rotor is locked. Okay, so essentially, you lock the rotor, you crank the torque up, braking apparently doesn't matter, the velocity and all that's set to 0, and if you set, let's measure this out. So if your steps are here, if that's the bottom, okay, so what you would need to do if you wanted to recreate this, oh, that must be why they're doing that. It's because the rotors add a little bit of dampening, it seems. If you watch closely, well, not when they go up, I guess, but when they come down, if you watch the rotor heads closely, you'll see them kind of spring. So it's probably there for a cushion as well as an extension. Interesting. So it looks like about 3 blocks. So 3 blocks from where... That can't be right. I'm gonna risk deleting this, I think. If I can get in, if I can find it. Okay, so we don't have gravity. Alright, here's what I... Now we're stuck with mag boots. Alright, here's what I wanted to see. Where's this come out at? Okay, so... Actually, that's pretty cool. So, from 1 block above... Oh, good grief. That's why they needed a gravity generator in here. This is all a mess. I really do not like mag boots, in case that wasn't apparent. In case I haven't said it enough over my episodes. I really do not like them. Alright, so it looks like... I'm going to have to go to spectator mode. Alright. So, it appears that it's about 2 blocks from floor height. So if this, because this right here, the block, well, that is floor height right there for where this is. So if you were wanting to replicate a hatch like this with this structure, it's basically where if you have your floor height, you need to go 1 block up from that, place the piston, place 2 rotor heads, and then build your hatch. And then the... Well, I guess if you wanted it 1 lower, you could do one rotor, but with the size of this ship, you can see from my character here, you wouldn't really want much smaller of a floor-to-ceiling height, because your character probably couldn't fit. So, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, technically 5... if I hadn't removed all that, and they put a blast door block all around here. So actually, let me see real quick if we can kind of redo that. Okay, so if I'm following this correctly, you would do a corner, and then what is that? Inverted corner? Yeah, inverted corner, and then go back to a, oh no, it's a regular edge. Okay, and then like that, and then you'd place, do we do an inverted corner here, or an edge? Let's try an edge. There we go. So that would be your step shape, and then, I don't know if there was one up here. I don't think there was. I don't think there was. So, yeah, that's about how you would do that. And then you can frame that back in. So that's how that is done. I hope that makes sense. I personally, I know I spent quite a bit of time on that, but I really, really, really wanted to figure out how that was done because, like I said, I have never seen a hatch done with a merge block. Because although this ship may not be airtight, if you had a vent or something somewhere, it wouldn't be that hard now to create it into a sealed ship because your hatch is actually a fully sealed hatch. Whereas, like I said, most of them are using a sideways rotor like a hinge or a piston with blast door blocks, but it never fully seals. So I got really excited about that. I hope everyone feels the same. Now, in here, in the interior part that we have not really explored around too much, I'm just going to leave it in spectator mode because I kind of broke the gravity. So in here we've got some really cool stuff. Now again, the LCD stuff is mostly just textures. It's not really anything fancy other than scripts. Some of these are running scripts and things, but I mean those are pretty much you place an LCD and you place the script or the texture or whatever. There's not much of a building mechanic to that. But I'm starting to see in a couple places that there was some grid manipulation going on here to get these flight seats where they are. Hence why everything looks so cool, is because you can't actually do some of this without some save file editing. Now this is pretty neat. I do like this. This is what we've talked about before. I don't have my welder thing because I'm in a spectator camera, but essentially this is a 2x1 ramp tip that then goes into a half block, and then when you place a full block, it sticks out and gives you some extra depth. So that's pretty cool, especially if you're wanting to make like any kind of shelf or frame or something, or just add a little bit more level texture to your wall or floor or something. That's a cool little trick. I do like, again, the functionality and detail work and aesthetic that kind of gets put together here. We have blast door frames surrounding the reactors that are connected to the conveyor system, which leads to the conveyors and the gyroscopes and stuff. And that goes under here into... Oh, there is a vent. Well, that's interesting. I do think the description even mentioned it not being an air-sealed ship, which I'm kind of wondering why. Because it has vents and everything. It should work. It should be you should be able to seal this, in theory. Maybe? So anyways, I think I've said that point already, that it wouldn't really matter. You could easily turn this kind of design into an airlock. You could have, if your ship was a little bit bigger than this one, you could put like a border right here that makes it an airlock. You could put another door and put a vent or something. So the design still holds up whether or not they chose this to be an airlock or an air sealed or not. Again, here's that shelf kind of depth look going on, which you can see adds a lot more substance to it. Pretty cool. And we also see more of these text panels and incomplete buttons and everything. I really do like the incomplete heavy armor slopes. I did not know that's a really simple way to double as a vent if you're wanting a look of a vent or a heat sink, but you don't care if it actually functions like one. That's a really cool way to do it, actually. I like that a lot, especially since it's vanilla. That's not a different block or anything, so you can do that with vanilla Space Engineers, which is really cool. And again, we've got a couple of these blast door blocks there, give it a little bit more depth. I like this too. And again, it's really tough to assess how to do some of this stuff because they're using these grid glitch type stuff, or whatever it's called. So some of this is a little bit hard to go, oh, that's a cool technique, because it's kind of, it's not really something I would consider cheating or anything. It's just circumventing the normal building parameters of the game. You're going kind of outside. This right here I like. This is another cool way of using that half block thing. I'm finding a lot of these really cool builds that I like that are heavily detailed do make use of half blocks a lot. And I'm learning that I need to start doing that more because I don't do that enough. But this kind of inset in the ceiling I really like. It would have even been cool had they just carried it all the way around and made it more like an arch. I would have liked that too. And essentially, again, it's just using the slope bases. Sorry, not the tips. Is that the same thing over here? Oh my gosh, I hate mag boots so much. Yes, that's the tip. No, it's not the tips, it's the base. And I'm walking upside down. What is going on? I hate them. I hate them so much. I understand them putting the gravity generator in here now. This would be terribly annoying. Yeah, so you're using the 2x1 base ramps, slopes. There's got to be a shorter name for those. And then the half blocks, and then a full block in the center to create this wave kind of arch type of thing. And the same goes for over there. You use the base with the half blocks and then the full blocks in the middle to create the depth. The other thing is, if you'll notice, they used a similar, but not the same, technique with this rounded area, where you can do a straight and then a rounded next to looks like a 2x1, a full 2x1 ramp. And it gives it another little depth texture kind of thing. Pretty cool. I like it. Yeah, so in terms of building techniques and creative... Ooh, this is kind of cool too. Again, hard to kind of tell how to make use of this, but it's the base 2x1s kind of wedged into the wall here. Do I have my lights on? I do. Why is everything so dark? So there's a full block there and a 2x1 base to a full block, but it gives this cool kind of like lean back, almost like a screen panel kind of look to it. It's pretty neat. I like it. But yeah, so I think that's most of the building and like decorative techniques that I see that I wanted to point out. I hope you guys enjoyed. If I missed anything, let me know. And again, if there's not already like some kind of super thorough tutorial on how to do this grid glitch kind of thing, let me know if you guys are interested in finding out how to do that. I personally never liked using it myself, but as you can see, it can yield some pretty cool results, and if you just can't figure out how to make something work in your ship, it might be advantageous. So if you'd like to see a video on that or something, let me know, and maybe I'll make a tutorial on that once I figure out how to do it myself. But so with that, we're going to wrap things up here for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you all next time. Peace!